So lads holiday,
Yep.
no purpose. 22 years old, sort of. We're in Thailand, and we're in a remote island on PP Island.
Yep.
And have basically just seen a load of small plastic particles and a lot of plastic bottles basically being washed up on the island, basically. And you go on these tours. We were on one of these tours, and they've basically said, you can go off and then come back in an hour. And we just saw, shitloads of plastic. It was just something that we kept on seeing. And we were just talking like, how is it that brands like Coca-Cola and Danone and all these brands that we grew up absolutely loving, how is it ending up here? It's so confusing. We've been speaking about recycling for forever. Like we didn't. Why is this happening? We didn't see how bad it was at this point. We just saw what we saw. When leaving that and I think that when leaving the island, we were just talking about it constantly. And through doing a few Google searches, you can fucking see how bad it is. And what you see is environmentalists who no one's listening to, because before Greta Thunberg, it was just like a 50-year-old standing outside of Coca-Cola's head office with a placard saying "fuck plastic" and blah blah blah. But the general public looked at those people as being a bit crazy. And I'll never forget, and I've said this in a few podcasts, I was standing at Whole Foods once. It always bloody happens at Whole Foods, doesn't it? Kensington, this one, and some sort of 60-year-old woman came over to me and asked for my autograph. And I was like, why? Why do you want my autograph? She goes, because I've been talking about plastic pollution for 30 years. No one's listened to me. I've dedicated my whole life to it. No one's listened to me. But you have been listened to. You've got a product on the shelf. So, that was it. A lot of people were just ignoring these environmentalists, similar to like the vegan movement. Like, don't talk to me. Like, it's just, don't shove it down my throat. Don't shove it down my throat. And that's what, there was a lot of pushback. So when we saw that actually this is a really big thing, and actually in the middle of the ocean, there is fucking plastic everywhere. And it's just the landfill is growing and growing and growing and growing. We were like, oh my God, like no one is listening to these people, and these companies are just getting away with it. And it made us angry, really, really, really angry of like, how is this happening? And how are they getting away with it? And through copious amounts of research into packaging, you've got glass bottles, which are recyclable, but they're very heavy. They don't stack up very well on a truck, which can be a problem, and also from a carbon footprint perspective and their heaviness, it can be a bit difficult. But also, if you're going to replace a plastic bottle with something, it has to be as on the go and convenient. We live in a world full of convenience, okay? Unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there that don't give a shit about the planet. And even if they say they do, and they might be walking around with a Cano, they're still buying Kirkland bottles for their home, okay? Like shitty, that's the reality, is that a lot of it is a smoke and mirrors, like sort of like behind closed doors sort of thing. And we've seen that. And I think one of the main things is, how do you make sure that if you're going to replace a plastic bottle, that it is as on the go and convenient for the consumer? So glass smashes, a lot of people don't want to put it in their bag. It's banned from a lot of places. It's impossible to be the 100% solution. Tetra Pak, okay, cartons, no one really talks about this, but they're worse than plastic bottles, okay? They're fused with aluminium, paper, and plastic. They're an absolute nightmare to recycle. There is a big difference between recyclable and recycled. So just because something is recyclable doesn't mean it is getting recycled. And that's the problem with plastic and Tetra Pak. It's a nightmare to recycle. So it ain't getting recycled. So even if it's 100% recyclable, yeah, that's all good. But it needs to be recycled. Aluminium is the most recyclable material on the planet. So when you recycle a can, it will always come back as another can. It will be what it was meant to be, a can. So 75% of all aluminium produced in the 1800s is just still in circulation. And it just had such a good story. So we were like, wow, why has no one put water in a can? And the reason was because of what we said before. Any person that left a big corporate business or Danone or Bellew or whatever would say, yeah, canned water would never be a thing. Never. It's impossible for it to be a thing. So that's why I believe no one's created canned water. But funny enough, when we first started canned water, we get messages being like, oh, I thought of this years ago. I thought of this, but you didn't start it. You didn't start it because you got to the same hypothesis that everyone else would have got to. It's a shit idea. But we, which I'd like to, put us in this innovator category, there was no blueprint for canned water. We're not a copycat. We're an innovator. So we started this and we were like, we're not going to take no as an answer. We believe we're going to be the punch bag and the guinea pig. We're going to take all the shit to make this work. And I think that's one of the hardest things about the journey of Cano Water is that we have been the biggest punch bag. We really, really have been a punch bag of like, just no, shit. Then something happens, David Attenborough, oh, actually, yes, we'll take you on. Then another water, then another canned water comes in. And I think one of the hardest things is for being a young startup entrepreneurial business is you can't be perfect, but you're literally, it's like you're the surfer, but you're surfing against the biggest waves. And you surf and then you just get fucking brought back to shore. And then you go back and you go over that wave. And then it is so tough being the first to do something. Because you're writing the blueprint, aren't you?
Yeah. And we're going to talk about that. I think what's fascinating is right at the beginning when we were talking about your DJing, you said your kind of one of your superpowers was this ability to listen, this ability to be angry about something, this ability to be obsessed with the new thing. And it's like you come to Whole Foods market and the woman comes up to you, asks for the photograph. It's like, well, actually what you've done is you've combined those three things: anger at what you saw in Thailand, obsession with newness, and listening, and actually listening to the point. And we're going to talk about this wave analogy because I think it's interesting because the wave is, granted, to begin with, it was pushing you back, but I actually believe you guys now, and we're going to talk about the resilience and the punch bag stuff, but you guys were the only ones in the fucking water to begin with, catching those waves, or you're the only ones paddling out, right? And now that wave is very much here, and you're surfing it. And I think, do you know Charlie Munger is Warren Buffett's side man? Not saying like that, but but he's got a thing is about being on the wave. And a lot of people, and actually the guy who gives a crap, the toilet bowl. He talks about being in the water. And I think I think what a lot of people go through is they get into the water, they get the waves pushing them back, punch bag no, and then they get out. David Attenborough saying yes. They get to the next wave. Punch bag no. But then if you just keep going,
have you seen that picture of the guy hammering away? Have you seen that?
And the goal's just there.
The goal's just there.
Yes.
And there's been so many times when we've thought about turning back. There's been so many things where, in 2018, we were literally 3 months from going insolvent. We were building, we brought in a managing director. He basically said, listen, guys, you're building a really good brand, but like no one knows it really. Like you might have a few celebrities holding it, but you're not making any money. You're not selling enough, and you're just running out of money, basically. And he basically said, we've got 3 to 4 months to really turn this around.
How did you turn it around?
Basically, it was a bit of luck, but we basically just planted the seed in every single we did everything within our power, everything. Like we were driving around the whole of London, handing out cans to people, building awareness. Like we were doing huge guerrilla marketing sort of stunts where a lot of people would think it was beneath them. Like we would just we didn't have any money. Like we would just sort of like stand outside of places or like we'd be, I mean, like one of the things I'm not proud of, but it did help us is we would take off people's billboards on the train and replace it with our own ones. We couldn't afford to, but this was like for us at this point, it was life or death. Like we were literally 3 months. And I think that people started talking about us. So people started actually, this whole chicken and egg situation in FMCG where you go to an independent cafe and you say, we want you to sell Cano water. And they'll say, but you need to be in with the wholesaler. We'll then go to the wholesaler and the wholesaler will say, you need to have 15 customers. We'll then get the 15 customers, we'll get on the shelf, and then the independent cafe would say, yeah, we've got you now, but no one knows what you are and no one's buying you. It literally is this chicken and egg horrendous situation. And trust me, it's 100 times harder when you have a canned water brand, because everyone thinks you're an energy drink or a beer. They don't know what you are. They don't know why you exist. So we've got to make 10 times more noise. So if you're just a plastic bottled water brand or a glass water brand and you can see the water, I know what that is. It's just another water. But if you're that, yeah, you might pick up the shelf, but it's confusing. So it was all about, for us, it was all about making noise. We did some sort of like pop-up shops in Old Street Station, and we did turn up at like your Tastes of London, like unannounced and all these types of things. But essentially, we did start to get a bit noticed in those 4 months. But the real thing that was the catalyst, which was so amazing, and if we didn't have this, we would just have faded out, like a lot of brands that we've seen over the years, is that on the last month where we were literally probably like we were running out of money, David Attenborough and Blue Planet, BBC, they did an episode about a whale that had died, and its child was like crying basically. And honestly, I'd never forget it. Overnight, we went from being the biggest fad.
But where did the can of water come into the whale's kid?
It didn't. But what happened was that.
The plastic killed the whale.
Plastic killed the whale. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, plastic killed the whale, and overnight, everyone went on the same journey that we went on, which is, fuck, I need to get rid of plastic. What is better than plastic? Go on the journey. See the same thing we saw. Aluminium's better. Oh, these 3 idiots called me up 4 months ago talking to me about this canned water product. So we fast-tracked all of these places, Breaks, Bidfood, Booker, Tesco, all these places that take people a long, long time. We got in there very, very quickly because we now became a necessity. So overnight, went from selling a few 100,000 cans in 3 years to nearly 12 million cans in 2019.